As mentioned, more than 3,000 law enforcement officers were deployed along the race route today. That included a contingent from the bomb squad of the New York City Police Department assigned to the marathon by my next guest. New York City Police Commissioner Bill Bratton is a familiar face here in Boston. He's a Dorchester native who joined the Boston force in 1970 and was named BPD Commissioner in 1993. Welcome back to Boston.
It's always great to be back.
Great weekend to be here.
Certainly is, that's for sure.
Now, you were at the finish line. You were also at the baseball game. And, of course, I know you went back to the finish line after that. But what was it like experiencing it this year?
A lot of nostalgia. As a police officer, I've been policing that since the early 1970s. Was not here last year. One of the few years I missed. I was in London giving a speech. Ricky and I were not here. So it was very important to come back this year to be part of the celebration that the incidents and events of last year were not going to defeat this city. And Boston came back stronger than ever.
I mean, gratefully, nothing happened today. But as a big city police commissioner yourself, I mean, when you look at strategizing security for something like this, and I was down there for a while this morning, I could see the layers and layers of various security and how it was being coordinated. Are you ever 1,000% confident that you've got it all covered?
No, not at all. And what you saw was only part of it because so much behind the scenes. I was up on Friday, had a full briefing from Boston Police Commissioner Billy Evans up at their counterterrorism center up at Boston Police Headquarters, looking at a lot of the camera systems and a lot of the information intelligence analysis capabilities. And they did a phenomenal job preparing for this event. It has come off safely. It has come off in a way everybody can be celebrating that Boston pulled it off, that Boston came back from the horrific events of last year. And law enforcement collaborated seamlessly in this event, which is great for the public enjoyment of the event.
I was very aware that Homeland Security had changed its location. I lived down that neighborhood, so I know where it used to post itself. That was all different. A lot of the security entrances and exits were completely rearranged. Newbury Street was shut off. Is this what life is going to be like for people coming to the Boston Marathon from here on out?
Life is going to be like that in this country for the rest of our lives, our children's lives. This terrorism threat is not a national threat. It is an international threat, and it is going to be around for many decades to come. So what you saw today, the fact that you had to be screened to get into the inner perimeter, that's the way it's going to be going forward. It's unfortunate, but it's necessary. And people today, I was watching very closely, as you might imagine, that aspect of the event, and they got it. They cooperated. They participated. One of the good things about the event, there was certainly a lot less alcohol consumption.
I didn't see any.
Because people couldn't bring containers in, so it was a much better behaved crowd and a much more enthusiastic crowd as a result.
But I did see people coming in with the big backpacks, with the huge baby strollers, and I thought, don't people, women with the big purses, it's like, what are they thinking?
Well, the message will take a while to get out, and the baby strollers, you can understand sometimes all that they have to lug around with the infant. But no, it's much the same as we got used to what you had to do to get on a plane today, in today's world. So today what you saw was a test in some respects, and I think Boston as a city, Boston as a police department, the other police agencies, Massachusetts State Police involved, I think they all passed with flying colors.
All right, Commissioner Bratton, I want to bring your wife into this discussion, Ricky Kleeman. She's a criminal defense attorney and a graduate of Boston University and a longtime friend and colleague. I've known you when we were working for Bill Dullahan, for heaven's sakes. So you missed
Back in the day.
Yes, that was a while back. You missed the marathon last year, as Bill just said. You have come every single year, but you were both in London for an event.
Yes, I've been here since 1973. That was my first Boston Marathon. I am a rooter, not a runner, though I do have this thought that one day I'm going to run it, though I think sometimes my knees and my back do not cooperate. But I will say this. Last year for us, we were in London. Bill was giving a speech. We found out about the horrific events because it was my BlackBerry that went crazy because the networks were trying to find my husband. And we were in a restaurant. Bill did his first interview from the men's room of that restaurant and went almost 24 hours doing those. We flew back and continued. And he was actually on the air during the chase which eventually wound up in Watertown, and of course with the ultimate capture of the surviving Tsarnaev brother.
So, Ricky, you're going to be doing some legal analysis for the upcoming trials. The first trial is the friends, the associates, the student friends of Dzhokhar Tsarnaev, and then the second one, of course, is Tsarnaev's trial itself. What's going to happen in that first one, which is scheduled to start in June?
It is scheduled to start in June, which, as I think, is like tomorrow.
Yeah.
And you have these young men who did dispose of things that would have led to the Tsarnaev brothers. However, what happens here is that we wind up with Dzhokhar Tsarnaev being captured. So what they did, although terrible, they're not really in the same kind of difficulty that they might have been had he not been captured. However, we don't see a plea deal. At least there's no rumors of one. And if that trial goes forward, we may find out some very interesting things about Dzhokhar Tsarnaev, but perhaps also about his brother.
Yeah, they're sort of laying the groundwork for that. Well, Commissioner, right after this happened, I think it was the next day, you may have still been in London, you said, you know, this is the opportunity to put the death penalty to test, and of course that has since happened, that this will be a death penalty case. Do you think so far the legal system has that right?
I think so. I am somebody that's not personally opposed to the death penalty for appropriate offenses. I think this is one of those. I do argue against the death penalty being seen as basically forestalling people committing acts that would lead to the death penalty. But certain acts, I think, would allow it to be used, and this is one of those.
Is it harder to seat a jury, Ricky, when you're looking for people who say, oh, yeah, if we convict, it's going to be the death penalty?
Yes, of course, because you have to have what's called a death-qualified jury, which is someone saying, I'm personally opposed to the death penalty, but I will follow the law. And if the law tells me that this is the worst of the worst, which is what the death penalty is reserved for, then this is the case. However, one of the things we should remember is there has been a poll done in Boston, and the poll clearly shows that at least people within Massachusetts, within Boston, are opposed to the death penalty as a verdict for Tsarnaev. So instead of looking for a change of venue, these defense lawyers may just say, this is the best place we can be. By the way, they have two of the greatest death penalty lawyers in the country who have come in to defend this young man.
So you haven't been commissioner since there's been a marathon in Boston, I mean, in New York. Do I have that right?
That's correct.
So
the one coming up will be the first one that I have responsibility for.
Do you take a page out of this book? I mean, is it going to be that? And it's a completely different course. It's much more urban than this is. But do you look at what's been done here? And
certainly, that's why I'm here. That's why I had my chief of intelligence, 15 of his intelligence detectives up here. We brought up 3 bomb dog teams.
Oh, yeah, I ran into them today.
So that, again, New York has had since 9/11 marathons, you know, and it has extensive security around them. But we continually try to learn from each other. So in my case, that the opportunity to come up, spend time with Commissioner Evans, see the preparations they had put into place, bring up a lot of my personnel to experience it firsthand and then take those lessons back. Since 9/11, since the events of last year, there's been a New York City detective assigned to the Boston Police Intelligence Squad for that constant exchange of information that was developed as this case moved forward. That's an indication of the level of collaboration that now exists between police agencies.
All right. Boston. New York City Police Commissioner Bill Bratton.
Ricky
Freeman. It is, yeah. Thanks so much for coming.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.